Hello and welcome back to 1874. It's time for a match preview show as Villa play Bournemouth at Villa Park Saturday, 3 p.m. Apologies for the big spoon noise that you just heard in the lead up. I knocked my cereal bowl as we were about to go live. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, and I am joined by the Athletics' Jacob Tanswell, a man from the South Coast as well, I believe, to discuss this game. This show is sponsored by Luke Roper, and if you want to get 20% off everything that Luke have to offer, then use the code TVV20 and you will get 20% off, just like I've just said. Jacob, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Yes, I used to cover Bournemouth. That was my first full-time job, actually, covering AFC Bournemouth. It's the Scott Parker season, which was very good. Without wishing this to sound like a radio phone-in show, I just want to say hello to a guy I met in the gym the other day who was actually on the treadmill listening to us, and I was next to him, and it was almost, it's pretty meta in the way that he was listening to us, and I just turned up alongside him. So his name's Ed, so hopefully he's listened to it on the treadmill as well again this morning.
Oh, nice. Well done, Ed. Keep plugging away at the gym and keep listening to the 1874 podcast as well, Jackie. I mean, you might see you're going to the gym after this, so you might see him after this, mightn't you?
Might do. Hopefully, you'll be listening live this time.
Yeah. Are you off to Bodymore later today?
Yeah, the press conference always for Emery's 1:30. Embargo till 2. Although Emery, for a very punctual man, does tend to be late more often than not. So 1:30 for him. And it's quite surprising in a way, because most managers prefer theirs early on a Thursday morning, where he prefers Friday 1:30, which is probably better for us in terms of understanding the injury landscape.
I mean, you can't really call him punctual and then say he's always late. Those two things don't go together.
He's punctual in terms of, obviously, his job. He gets, he works on time, everything like that. But when it comes to press conferences, that's probably the only time he affords himself to be a little late.
Might not be his fault. Could be the people working around him. To be fair, that are making him late. We'll never know. Let's just touch on the Bologna game on Tuesday night. I did do a solo video on my own for about 15 minutes the other day, reviewing it. But what were your thoughts from the press box, Jacob?
I absolutely loved the game. It was my favourite game of the season. I know Bayern Munich, it was a standout one, but I think in terms of the overall performance, how consistent they were, how controlled they were, it reminded me of Villa from probably this time last year, really, when they felt really in control, great structure, the way they broke through the Bologna man-for-man press, which I thought was going to be a real issue, and it was at times early on, but the way they just got better in the second half, and they overwhelmed Bologna at the end, didn't they?
I'll go along with what you've just said there. I enjoyed that game more than the Bayern Munich game, and I was trying to put my finger on why that was. Maybe there was a little bit of nerves around the first game. A trip into the unknown. I didn't really know what it was going to be like, but you're right. It was like this time last year that you just never felt like Villa weren't going to win that game. I just thought we played some brilliant stuff as well in terms of the actual performance and the way we played. I think I put it in the top 5 under Emery. I've got to say, I'm trying to think what else would be in there. Obviously, the Man City game performance-wise, at the time they beat Brighton 6-1, Newcastle 3-0 the season before you started covering us. I think that Bologna game's right up there. I'm not saying Bologna are the best team in the world or anything like that, but I just thought it was a really mature performance, and it just played really, really well. I thought some of the stuff we played at times was absolutely electric.
Definitely. I think if you see talk about consistency for a 90-minute period, that is probably up there as well. I think right in that way. I think especially in the first half, I know Villa didn't score, but some of the combinations were absolutely fantastic. And the way that Ian Maatsen was just taking he's taking the right winger back into places he didn't want to know. And I looked at the right winger's face, and genuinely he looked mentally fatigued after about half an hour. He's just thinking, I've just got to keep tracking this guy, and you got substitute at half time. I thought Morgan Rogers was just fantastic again. Some of the combinations in and around McGinn as well, showing how important he is to this team, and you realise how great he is when he is in that team after a period of him not being in it. I think he's a wonderful player, and he has the best of Villa, really. He embodies it. So, really good performance, and I think Villa with a fully fit squad, and with Kamara coming back as well, it just felt like a really positive evening.
Yeah, I mean, there's 142 watching live at the moment. There's 64 of you on YouTube. Get a job. Come on, you shouldn't be watching us at this time of the morning. 66 now. Let me know if you agree with that in the chat, and I'll flash some of it. Would you put that in the top 5 performances under Emery on Wednesday night? Because I really think it was right up there. mean, we might as well start with Maatsen. Actually, he was my my man of the match on Tuesday night. I'm sure it meant absolutely everything to him that I gave him my man of the match award. It's difficult because I think Luca Dean was probably man of the match last weekend, and you've obviously got to rotate, and Emery showed that on Tuesday night, sorry, with a little bit of rotation. But I'm wondering against Bournemouth and the way they play, whether Maatsen is a better option for this one as well.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, I think stylistically, Bologna suited him perfectly because, like you say, they went man for man, and with their right back going into deep areas to follow McGinn, there was that space to really drive into it. And as we know, Maatsen's a completely different process to Luca Dean, and he prefers to run in behind without the ball. So Bournemouth plays similar. They're very aggressive. I remember this, when Bournemouth came to Villa Park last year, Zabani was so tight on Ollie Watkins. Adam Smith got really tight on Morgan Rogers, and that ultimately led to the first goal. Rogers' goal. You do think there's going to be a lot of space down that left side, and Maatsen would be absolutely fantastic. But again, Luca Dean, if he played, he wouldn't do a bad job, would he?
No, exactly.
He's so well rounded at the moment, Luca Dean. He's got all the experience, and the way I see it is, it's Luca Dean's. He's the first choice. As soon as he has that tail off, then Maatsen can start playing Premier League games. But I think in Europe and in cup competitions, Maatsen's going to get enough games. He'll be coming off the bench to keep him happy. And then he's just waiting for Luca Dean to slip. And then I think Maatsen will take control. But until then, just keep going. I think the way they're both playing is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Villa got so many good options now. That bench the other night was absolutely incredible. 12 subs, and nearly every single one of them a top quality, top level footballer. It's such an exciting time, and just touching on Kamara, just saying Kamara come back on the pitch, straight away, he just looked brilliant, like he'd never been away. Like he's such a high level footballer, genuinely one of the best defensive midfielders in Europe, I would say. So it's just so exciting at the moment. Emery obviously did shuffle the pack on Tuesday. We've been expecting it for a while. It hasn't really happened in the league and Champions League, but it did happen on Tuesday night. But again, I'm thinking about the opposition for this one, Bournemouth. McGinn might be the right choice on the left again as well. But do you think, because McGinn and Maatsen played on Tuesday, do you think he'll put Dean and Ramsey back in?
I think Ramsey will come in, but I wonder if that's for Leon Bailey instead, and then you put McGinn there, and then you get the width from the right with Matty Cash, and then Luca Dean can come back into the team as well. What I think is great as well is that we're talking of substitutions, but now you can have 5 subs. You're not thinking of them as bit part players. You're thinking of them almost as finishers, as in a similar way to John Duran. So if you do bring Maatsen on, if you're chasing a game or it's 1-on-1 or whatever, he's going to cause issues as well. And like we said in the last podcast, Dan, they're very different players in terms of they give you attacking variations. Luca Dean's much more of a stand and deliver crosser. We'll cross it traditionally. Maatsen will get to the byline more, cut back crosses, etc. like that. So I think they're both very good. But I would probably say Jacob Ramsey will come in for Leon Bailey.
Okay, I mean, I guess the striker debate's over for this one because we know Watkins will play because Duran played on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think so. We were talking about what's the stylistically the better suit, but I think Bologna and Bournemouth are quite similar in how they press. So, Duran had that game. Watkins now comes back into the team, and then you've obviously got the cup game, haven't you, next Wednesday? So Duran can then come back then. So there's plenty of game time for both of them, and as long as Duran stays happy, then that's the best thing.
Yeah, no attacking the dugouts, please. John, we probably spent a lot of money getting them.
It was so funny, Dan. Honestly, he came off. And then he went straight down a tunnel and he had a face like thunder. And then as soon as the fans started clapping him, all of a sudden it just changed. He just started waving, smiling away, laughing. It's just like that just embodies and sums him up, doesn't it? In terms of he just wants to be loved. He just loves the adulation. And all that anger and all that, slapping the dugouts just completely washed away when, he started hearing, applause and, people singing his name.
I mean, I could have understood that frustration had he not just scored before he came off. Like if he hadn't scored, but he just scored. So, like in a way, he'd done the job that he was there to do, and he got taken off. He's probably just desperate to play 90 minutes. I expect, because he hasn't really done that other than the Carabao Cup this season. You've got me thinking on the fly here about the team. I thought Leon Bailey was better the other night. He's clearly not quite there in terms of fitness and form at the moment. But I think this is a game against Bournemouth, because they do play with such width. It probably is a game for 2 natural fullbacks rather than Konsa going to right back. So I would expect Carlos to perhaps sit this one out as brilliant as he's been. But, again, just what brilliant options we have. So I would expect Cash to play right back, but for this one, a more orthodox fullback. But you're right about McGinn. on the right. Perhaps there, if you've got cash, you can play McGinn on the right and Ramsey on left. And if Villa ever need to sit in and drop the extra man into the defence and almost make it like a back forward, both McGinn and Ramsey have been good at that for Villa in the past, albeit probably mainly in away games.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why McGinn's form kind of dipped off before his injury is because he had Concert outside of him. He didn't have that natural width. It didn't feel right. Where I think if he had cash behind him, I think there would be a lot of a better balance. And at the same time, I think Diego Carlos for me has been October Player of the Month. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, you're thinking, okay, he's obviously physically, fragile at times. He is playing a lot of games. He's going to break down at some point. Maybe we can just manage him a little bit, and at the same time, you're not taking away anything, are you? Because you're simply putting Concert back into his best position, and having Cash, who I felt quite sorry for him because he did the pre-match. He did the pre-match press conference, and usually 99% of the time, that's an indicator that that person who did the pre-match press conference is going to start the game.
We said that.
Yeah, and he's for 25 minutes. He's talking about his dream of can't wait to play in Champions League, and he's come 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, he's doing box runs as a substitute. So hopefully he's back, and I think he'll give better balance to the team if Leon Bailey doesn't play.
Yeah, come on then. Let's talk about Bournemouth. I watched them last week against Arsenal. Brilliant result to beat them, albeit they were helped with Arsenal going down to 10 men. I think, but they're an interesting side. But Bournemouth, Iraola's a brilliant manager. He's got his style of football, quite a throwback, I would say. We're just playing two wingers really, really wide. They rely on a lot of speed in transition. I think they're probably missing Solanke a little bit this season. Evan Nilsson's not quite filled his boots yet, but it's still early days for him. This is a dangerous game for Villa, albeit it's a team they've dealt with well at Villa Park in the last few seasons under Emre.
Yeah, definitely. I love the way Bournemouth play. Obviously, two Basque managers, and I think they're very different in how they want to play. Emery usually by and large prefers controlling games to regulate the tempo of games, where Iraola, if you look at their defeats this season, like Leicester, for example, the issues come when they have the ball. They don't really want more than 49% possession because they want the other team to have the ball so they can turn. And, basically their best creator is through counter-pressing and pressing because they want to turn the ball over in high areas. And then, they've only got 2 or 3 passes before they're through on goal. So they play really, really aggressive. They go man for man. They play so vertical. They don't want to keep the ball around the back. And I think for Villa, you might see what Emery did at times last year where, Villa don't press Bournemouth. They let them have it around the back because they know Bournemouth don't want that. If Villa go and press, then Bournemouth will put it into Villa's defensive third sooner, and they'll start to really press high and cause issues because there will be times where Bournemouth will win the ball back in Villa's defensive third, and it will be a bit nervy because they're really good at it. But I think Emery's going to come up with a way of limiting those scenarios.
Yeah, but just quick shout out to Global Pilot, who says he's at home recovering from open heart surgery. So that doesn't sound great. So all the best to you. Hopefully your recovery is swift, and hopefully we're entertaining you for this brief 20-minute period whilst you're recovering at home. So get well soon, mate. I just read that before we came on that Alex Scott is going to be out for a while, so he won't be playing. But I got to say, a player that's impressed me for Bournemouth, and he scored. I'm not just saying it because he scored last week. Christie has turned into a really accomplished midfielder under Iraola, a little bit similar to how some players have changed under Emery. Just shows for Bournemouth the coaching side of things of getting a manager in who's very clear and concise with what he wants. And Christie's become a really important player for Bournemouth. Yeah,
definitely. I was covering Bournemouth when Christie signed, and for that Championship promotion season, he was playing as a wide right winger, hugging the touchline, almost, like a Leon Bailey in a way. Obviously not as quick, but he would stay on that right, come in on his left foot. Where now, partly because of injuries last season with Tyler Adams not being able to ever get fit, he went into the centre midfield alongside Lewis Cook, and he's become this just absolute pressing monster. I think him and Lewis Cook, most yellow cards, most tackles, most pressures, of any midfielder in the Premier League. They're very combative. And with Christie as well, he's got this most incredible engine. He can run and run and run. He can break into the box. What's been his Achilles heel, really, which has stopped him getting from the top level, has been his finishing. And that's why Ariola's brought him back. So it was quite of a coincidence. It's quite ironic, really, that goal against Arsenal was such really well taken. So I think he's a fantastic player. Alex Scott's a great player, but although he started the last game, he's not tending to be in their first choice 11.
Yeah, and Bournemouth have changed goalkeeper over the last few months. Neto's ended up going to Arsenal on loan because Kepa has come in from Chelsea, on loan. I've got to say, I think Kepa might have had his only good game in a Chelsea shirt at Villa Park when Villa played against. I don't know whether you remember it because you weren't covering Villa at the time. So just before Emery came in, Villa lost at home to Chelsea 2-0. But in the first half, actually played quite well. But Kepa just saved everything. I don't know if you remember that game. What have you made of him going there? It's quite an interesting one because you assume he's a player that Iraola knows quite well and must think suits his style of football. But generally, since Kepa made that big money move to Chelsea, it hasn't gone well.
No, him and Areola know each other from Athletic Bilbao. If you talk to Bournemouth fans, they probably say the goalkeeper was their real weak spot last season. Neto was captain, but he made a lot of howlers, didn't look comfortable at times, coming off his line, but with his feet. And I think that's one of the reasons why they wanted to move Neto on and bring Kepa in, because Kepa seems to be better with his feet. He's not as physically imposing, and he does have a lot of, areas where he's not really adapted to England, but he has got a lot of experience. I don't know how old he is now, 31 or something. He's not this young kid anymore. He's got a lot of experience, and I still don't think Bournemouth are fantastic in that department, but he's an upgrade on Neto. And you look at that team, for me, I think Bournemouth have got one of the best recruitment models in the last couple of years, who they've signed, Antoine Semenyo, Zabani, Senesi. I'd probably say Zabani and Senesi are up there with Powell and Konsa in terms of being so underrated as
really?
a centre-back pairing. I think they're absolutely incredible.
Zabani's a beast, isn't he?
Zabani will go for 60 million next year.
He's 60?
Yeah, generally, I don't know where he'll go, but he's real top level, and they're very happy with him. They've got obviously a kid at right back, Araujo, and you look at that defence. They played against Liverpool a couple of weeks ago. I think the average age was 22 of that back four. So they're a real young team, really intense. And the Villa aren't quite at it, like they haven't been in first halves against Everton, against Wolves in previous months. They might find themselves coming up short.
Yeah, they've got. I mean, Semenyo is obviously the one that stands out for Bournemouth. Been in my fantasy football team all season, done okay for me. But they've got different wingers, that he's not afraid to make subs through games at half time, because he does have a lot of difference makers in those wide positions. It's almost like he wants a wide player for each half in some ways, Iraola, which is again something Villa are going to have to be wary of. For this game, I think it's the flanks that is obviously the biggest concern for Villa.
Yeah, I think if you remember the game at Bournemouth, Konsa, he looked really quite unsure against Semenyo. Semenyo is probably the best 2-footed player in the league, really, in terms of he can go on the left foot.
He's coming out with some wild. We've got Bournemouth players moving for 60 million in the summer. We've got the best 2-footed player in the Premier League playing. Why aren't Bournemouth top of the league, Jacob?
We'll see. Honestly, I really love the way Bournemouth plays. Semenyo is so can go on the outside, can come on in the inside, in getting a shot off as well. But they've got great talent off the bench as well. And if you look at the stats already this season, I know it's a small sample size, but Bournemouth and Villa have got the most goals and assists from subs this season come off the bench. I think Bournemouth have got 3 goals and 3 assists, and Villa have got 4 goals and a couple of assists as well. So both teams have got these game changers in their teams, and Bournemouth rely, like we say, on pace, on transition, on being direct as well. So Emery is going to be quite aware that he can't commit both fullbacks high all the time, because he knows the space between on the outside of the centre backs is where Bournemouth will try and exploit. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting one. David Stiles has commented on your spicy takes on Bournemouth as well, Jacob.
You look at the stats though. Semenyo has most shots, left foot and right foot. The best balance in the league as well. I'm not saying he's the best winger or the best attacker, but he's
just the best 2-footed player.
He's very comfortable going on either foot, and Konsa found that out. And he had a few chances at Villa Park as well last year, so I think he's a real handful. And Evan Nilsson, although he's not been scoring a lot, he has shown a lot of promise as well, and you just feel like he will click into gear sooner rather than later.
It's certainly, it's a dangerous tie for Villa at home. Villa have beat Bournemouth at home twice under Emery, but they are a good side, and it's one where if you're not fully on it, they'll exploit it and they'll take advantage. To be fair, you've come up with a few spicy takes already in this one, Jack. I'm going to ask you for your hot / ice cold, freezing cold take ahead of the game. You have to make one prediction ahead of this one, and I've got no idea what I'm going to say myself, so I'll come to you first. What are you going for?
I think they're going to try. Semenyo is going to go on Powell, and he's going to try and exploit his perceived lack of pace. And I think Bournemouth will take the lead, but I do think Villa in the second half will to get control of the game, and it was similar to last year at Villa Park. I think they'll come away 2-1 or 3-1 winners, but it's going to be extremely difficult. I think key to this is actually letting Bournemouth have the ball. If you let Bournemouth have the ball around the back, I think it could play into Villa's hands.
Okay, interesting. What am I going to come up with here? God, I've used it. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be a cheap one from me this week. I've used it a couple of times before, and it hasn't happened. Villa will get a penalty, and we'll find out who our Premier League penalty taker. I'm going to have to go with that because I haven't got anything else in my locker for this one. So yeah, I'll go for that. So that's our takes ahead of the game against Bournemouth tomorrow. Right then, if you're going, I will see you there and have a very, very good time at Villa Park. I'm sure we will. If you see Jacob as well, say hello to him. Say hello to me. Plenty of people say hello to me at Villa Park. Make sure you're saying hello to Jacob if you see him at Villa Park, or if you see him on the treadmill. He loves to have a chat about Villa. Go back and watch my Bologna full-time video that I did very early on Wednesday morning, just giving my thoughts after that Bournemouth game, after that Bologna game. It was a brilliant result and a brilliant night at Villa Park. We'll be back next week with a pod looking back on hopefully 3 points for Villa against Bournemouth. Do all the things that I go on about every week, please. Reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars on Spotify, comments, liking, subscribing with your post notifications on YouTube. All these things really, really help. And if you hear if you see an advert on YouTube, just don't skip through it. Just watch it, because that helps us if you do that. So that would be much appreciated. Well, to be fair, no one seems to have a good Friday at work, but absolutely nobody seems to be at work on this chat. So just have a good Friday. As I say, I'll see you at Villa Park tomorrow. And as always, up the Villa.